Okay.
So I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Um, what did you want to cover today?
Um, either one, the reflection or I guess or the outcomes.
Oh,
Maybe the outcomes to see where I'm at if I'm doing them right.
okay. And then if we have time, if we could go back to the 621 reflection, I just had one comment. So that's the
Is that the newest one? That's
that's
the
the
latest one.
TIL is yeah, it's 621 is the newest one. Yeah, it's the newest one. It's
Let me
not,
see if I
it's
have
the
it. Okay, I have it. If you want to look at it right quick, that's fine.
shoot, it is the newest one. Yes,
Okay.
so we could start there, or we could start as your outcomes where you identified. It's great.
Okay. Mm. Is that large enough, or you want it a little bit larger?
Yes, that's good. And I
Okay.
also have it in front of me.
Do I need to do? Do you want to like do one or two or?
Let's try to go through all of them since we haven't talked about any of them. Is that okay?
I mean, do you want me to do it all at one time or just
Read it and then we'll talk.
okay? Read
And
the
you
whole
know,
thing.
yeah, you can do the outcome and then the progress.
Okay. Outcome and progress. Uh, okay. Spiritual formation and integration. MH. MH and I had 4 visits. She wants to continue the visits. However, I understand my capacity in the role. MH is dealing with depression, and she has increased her depression medication to have some semblance of life. She is constantly reacting to childhood trauma, which drives her emotions. I have referred her to a mental health therapist. She has her family doctor, but she refuses to go. This connects to my narrative history, and I did the same thing. I used my family doctor and pastor as my therapist. Those things were not giving me the healing I sought. However, along along with 2 different therapists, one EMDR trained, and my pastor, the healing came over time.
Okay. So I think this is an excellent connection to your narrative history. I mean, I totally get how you are uniquely able to empathize with her and where she is. What under the indicator is the behavioral science that's helped you understand this connection?
I'm not sure. See, I'm not sure about all that because I'm really new to this, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. So the behavioral sciences part is the part you need more. So, okay. All right. Let's keep going.
Okay. Um, oops, so fast. The sociocultural identity.
Yes,
What?
articulate. And I really mean read the indicator. I said outcome. I meant the indicator.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
Art articulate how one's social identity informs one's approach to spiritual care.
Hmm.
What I understand about my social identity is that when I was about 7 or 8, I attended my grandmother's church. The Sunday school teacher embraced me and acted like I was the only one in the room. I, I felt seen, I felt a connection, or in my young mind, I felt love. I didn't go every Sunday, but between that and my parents mainly teaching about giving, not out of the abundance, prayer and forgiveness, it has helped shape and mold who I am. Genuinely, I have genuinely received my parents' compassionate hearts that allows me to approach the care recipient with gentleness. My Sunday school teacher and my parents taught me how to have compassion and empathy, which I will always need as a pastor and as a future chaplain.
Okay. Okay. What do you think about this one? Do you think it,
What do you mean? What part?
do you think this one captures, I think this one captures well how the identity informs. Under the awareness of growing edge, you said being a Christian. Say a little bit more about the being a Christian connection.
Um, like you talking about like, being who God has called us to be and doing God's work, make disciples, transform the world.
Okay.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
So that's what I assumed you meant
Hmm.
in terms of the Christian connection here with this sense of being loved. Okay, excellent. I got that one. All right, keep
Do I
going.
need to add that in or it's okay or
Um, no, I got it. I think it's, I mean, you can add it in if you want to, but I got it. I'm clear now.
okay. Um, Demonstrate how one's social identity interacts with the care receiver's social identity. My social identity interacts with the care recipient in many ways. I'm a Black female, a mother, and she is a Black female and a mom. Her childhood background mimics my own childhood trauma and abuse. Although we have similar stories, I am not in the same place she is. She has just recently started to share the story of her childhood, the pain of her childhood. I have been through years of therapy and have found healing in many areas. I'm not saying I'm not triggered, but I will ground myself before she arrives to experience minimal countertransference. I offer her space to talk. I'm a non-anxious presence.
Okay.
Oops, didn't mean to do that. I missed.
Okay. Excellent. And then
Um,
and with the countertransference, as we've talked about it, you identify when it happens and you actually use it to your advantage.
right.
Okay. Excellent.
Demonstrate how one's orienting system interacts with the care receiver's orienting systems, when providing spiritual care. My care recipient and I connected over the shared experience of having fathers with alcoholism. She expressed how it negatively impacted her family's well-being, and I related by reflecting on how my own father's alcoholism contributed to the financial instability and poverty in my family. We both were able to overcome and have a stable life.
Hmm. Okay.
Demonstrate how one's use of self-care practices, including trauma-informed approaches to support well-being, including when providing spiritual care. It is essential to ensure that the care recipients feel safe. If they are feeling overly anxious, as one of my patients recently was, I will ask them to take a minute to do some deep breathing and normalize whatever emotions they are going through. I use theory within the session. I ask the care recipient to journal her strengths within this relationship and also do a pros and cons list to see the reality of what she was experiencing. I wanted
Mm.
to help her know if it is a false narrative created through her anxiety or if what she is experiencing is playing out. The goal was to help her thrive.
So the theory you used was resilience theory.
Yes.
Tell me more about resilience theory. That's a behavioral. Remember we talked earlier and you said, I don't really know about the behavioral sciences part.
Right.
That would be a potential behavioral science connection. Can you tell me more about the resilience theory?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I probably could on the 14th, but now no. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Okay. Keep going. I
Um,
think that's just a connection that letting you
okay.
know. Okay.
Dem Demonstrate how one is addressing one's implicit bias and systematic bias when providing spiritual care is appropriate to one's context. I have been working alongside the 18 to 30 group. They have been coming to Bible study. They don't participate except when it's time to pray. They hear everything, and one of the mothers told me that they discuss what they hear in Bible study um, at home. I always include their voices, but they decline. They have asked me to go to the beach and have a retreat. I've been working alongside them on this project and the material that they will be using. They seem excited that I'm supporting them.
Excellent. So what's the okay, so you're saying the bias is against them and your progress is you're now working with them.
Right.
How you're addressing your bias?
Because my bias, I guess, is I feel uncomfortable about that group because they don't really talk. They just kind of look at you, and I try to avoid that group, but I've had to face it and just you know challenge my insecurity and talk with them, and they're willing to talk and stuff. It's just that the silence and the way they look is just that's just who they are, I guess. But it makes me uncomfortable. And but I've had to face it and to just talk with them and see where they're at and everything. And they're good and all, but that's just an uncomfortable group for me.
Okay, you name the bias that your bias is you believe they don't talk and
Hmm.
realize they do talk. So that would be evidence of progress, that you come alongside them, that you work with them, and you engage them in conversation. Does that make sense? You don't
Yeah.
have to say anything out. I'm just
Uh,
identifying out of what you've written. Hey, the
hmm.
opposite is bias. I believe they don't talk. Now, what that means to you, I don't know. Like they don't talk because they don't care. They don't talk because they don't like you. What is the little bit more behind that implicit bias? And then in your progress, hey, I'm coming alongside them, going to the beach. I'm creating opportunities for us to talk and discovering they do talk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And then we get to let me know whenever you're ready, do the last one.
Demonstrate one's use of empathy when providing spiritual care. A mom approached me about her 12-year-old son's cursing while playing games online with friends. She told them that she told them and his friends to stop, but they did not. I asked her if she cursed him or in the house, and she said yes. I told her that I was sorry that she was going through this. However, children only go by what they see and hear us doing. It's not good. It's wrong. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
Demonstrate your use of empathy. So the empathy was I'm sorry to hear you're going through this.
And it was other stuff. It was a longer conversation. It was like a 45-minute conversation, um but I did support her and I told her, um that if she wanted him to behave a different way, then she would have to act a different way, you know. And I understand that she's under stress and she has a lot going on being a single mother. She don't get along with the father and all that stuff. But
Right.
I mean, you know, and I showed her empathy and grace, but I just
Okay.
didn't write it all here because it's such a long story. It's, I just picked out that portion. It's just a lot.
Okay. So the portion you picked out doesn't really highlight your
Okay.
empathetic skills. I feel they were present now in what you've just shared. So you talked with her for a lot. You empathized around her struggles with her spouse. You empathized around her financial struggle. I mean, all that stuff, right?
Hmm.
All list all of those moments of empathy.
Okay.
And you also share with her, um, not however, because however kind of dismisses what preceded.
Okay.
It's
Don't.
almost like saying, but I did all
Okay.
this, but then I gave her a zinger.
Okay.
So, and then I found that children often mirror what they see and hear around them. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's really what you shared. When you did it, you were not blaming her. I'm sure that's how you presented it. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And you're inviting her to recognize the powerful influence that she has over her child. And
Okay.
it just softens the tone of what
Right.
you've written. I get that your actions were appropriate and soft and all of that. Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so I just wanted to reflect your strength. So let's go back to the behavioral sciences piece because I think that language is sometimes challenging to me too.
Hmm.
So something that I've heard you repeatedly work with is trauma-informed care.
Hmm.
So you observed that MH is reacting to their childhood trauma.
Hmm.
That reflects a behavioral science lens, recognizing how early experiences shape emotional regulation, right? These
Hmm.
shape coping mechanisms. So
Hmm.
that's the use of behavioral science in that way,
Okay.
which is excellent.
Okay.
Um, you identified with her reluctance to get professional help, right? Because you had a reluctance to get professional help. And we sometimes call that a parallel process. And
Mm.
that's behavioral science, where your narrative history initially mirrors theirs. And it allows you to have empathy without over identifying because you recognize how your past, in, what happened in your past, and you allow that to inform your current caregiving boundaries. So look at my hands. So it's a parallel process, not an enmeshed process.
Okay.
It's parallel process. It's not countertransference.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
so that parallel process is another behavioral science piece, if you will.
Okay.
Now, I
Okay.
don't know fully the resistance stuff, but this is good. It's good. So,
Okay.
and like I said, I too struggle with that behavioral science piece and naming it. Sometimes I realize I make it much more complicated than it needs to be. Like how deep you want me to be.
Right. I did a lot of research, but it's just still hard to understand.
Yeah. Is it clear now?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So that's all I would say. Those adds to that to give very clear evidence and well done. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you also potentially wanted to go over the weekly reflection, your
Yeah.
BDIL,
I
and you got
mean, either
you.
one. You said you had one as well, so it doesn't matter. I just
So
this was the main thing right here.
this was the main thing. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, I would love to go over your BDTIL. You got my feedback from the other one.
I did not.
It was on the same paper that I sent the movie analysis.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
No, I
so
haven't looked.
So when you get a chance, because I realize you haven't looked at that yet, you'll
Mm.
have that feedback. But let's take a look at this one. Do you mind?
The 21st, right?
The 21st.
Okay. I think this is okay. You want the whole thing read? Or
Yeah, you obviously don't have to read the descriptions, just read your words.
okay,
And again, I have it in front of me.
okay. Um, I'll just go to the context, right?
Yeah,
See, I called a church member, SS, who had keys to an area we needed access. She had not been to church in about 3 months, so I asked her to leave the keys in my office hanging on the wall. I assumed that she did. I texted her and told her, well, she hadn't did it. So when we looked at, they
right.
weren't there. I should have put that in there. I'm sorry. I
Right.
texted her and told her that the trustee needed the key and that she should call and meet with him to pass it off. She said that she would do that, and she did. Not easily, though. After exchanging the key, her mother, EB, immediately called me, mad because her daughter had to give up the key. She said that it was perfectly safe with her daughter. She had me on speakerphone, so her daughter chimed in. Reverend Moore, I don't understand why they must get under the church. I told her the gas company needed to check the pipes under the church to see if there was a leak. We had to pay $3,000 in 3 months for gas, and that had only been we had only been to church on Sundays and for choir rehearsal. I had her and I had I told her that AS is the head trustee and that he needed the keys and they needed to be at the church, not in someone's home. Reverend Moore, they were safe. My mom and I know where they are kept. All three of the above people are related in some way. They have a very rocky relationship. SS and her mother, they think they run the church. They want to have all the power and authority. Her mom said she hated leaving the church because she liked my sermons, but she may leave and return when God removes all the evil people. I have to be honest, my attitude was not the best. By the time we hung up, things were fine. I did de-escalate the situation. They are also upset that the trustee is not doing his job. He always claims that he will do things, but he doesn't. He never returned phone calls. She was mad because he took 2 days to get in touch with him. And that is only because I called him and told him that if he wanted those keys, he had to answer a call. SS is
Mm,
married to AS's nephew. The relationship is toxic at best.
right.
Um, you want me to read the behaviors and all that stuff?
I think your
Um,
observations are excellent.
Thank you. Behavior scene. I see control and power at play here. Family dysfunction and enmeshment, triangulation. The two being in conflict and bringing a third person in. Sometimes the mom is a third person, but I have found myself as the third person, and I'm quickly trying to get out of that triangle. The dynamics. I felt like I was being pulled into the triangle, and I felt like there was some emotional cutoff.
What do you mean by that?
Um, with one of the man that actually wanted the keys, he just was not connected at all in any kind of
Yeah.
way.
Okay.
He just refuses to. But see what happened. What happens socially? Disconnection, socially, spiritually, self-awareness, um, psychologically, anger and annoyed. That was for me, I guess. What happens to the person? Okay. What happens to the person? Everyone wants to be in charge or in leadership. The individual model seems to be working. There is no concern for how their behavior can affect the group. Group dynamics. The particular group is still in storming stage, it seems.
Yeah.
Um, Interpersonal dynamics. This conversation was over the phone. I was not able to see any facial expressions. I did pick up on the tone of her voice. At one point, she was at screaming level. That increased my anxiety, and I raised my voice as well.
I was
Interpersonal.
surprised that she was at screaming level. I'm like, wow, that's a lot,
Hmm.
Lisa.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
you maintained, well, you said you raised your voice too, but yet maintained. That's awesome. Yeah.
thank you. Interpersonal dynamic. I don't know if they know how to regulate their emotions. Um,
You don't?
self-supervision.
You don't know if they know how to regulate their emotions. Don't look like they don't, but all right. And then your interpersonal dynamics where you say you could have managed your emotions better. Say more about that.
Where did I say that at? I'm sorry, I don't see it.
Under self-supervision.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Um, well, I try not to let anybody's emotions. I try not to match their emotions like that because it doesn't do any good, to get involved like that. But I was going through some things that week, and had been sick and not sleeping, so I'm sure that played a part into that my own emotions. So,
Okay.
but I try not to. I mean, if they start screaming and stuff, I just try to just not go there. But I didn't scream, but I did let them know, and they said, "Well, you sound like you're very aggravated." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." But yeah,
Okay. So that part. Okay. So that's how you said, hey, I could have done better. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So
Um,
then when you get to go to your your interventions are here's for the future. Um,
at the bottom. Oh yeah.
let's
I
look, let's look
yeah,
at
I
your,
didn't.
yeah, I realize that. Let's look at your two indicators. Um,
Okay.
so you demonstrate how one's orienting system interacts with the care receiver's oriented system when providing spiritual care. And you identified a few places where you understood power dynamics were going on.
Mm-hmm.
What other orienting systems were happening there?
Well, I was kind of with her on the fact that the guy, he never returns calls and stuff like that. So I guess we were kind of on the same page with that.
Well, you had empathy for her frustration with the man not returning calls.
Yeah. And then he would
Yeah.
tell me that she never called him. And then she would show me on her phone where she called him. He would show me on the phone where he didn't get the call. So I'm like, I don't know. They're just,
Okay.
yeah,
So
drive me
the
crazy.
triangle. You're in the triangle.
Yeah.
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 Um, so one of the theories, indicator 118, that you and what you identified earlier about the triangle piece is you're trying to move from the drama triangle in a toxic relationship to the empowerment triangle. So that's part of your orienting system, and it's a theory as well that you're drawing on. And we could argue some ethical principles too of being in the pastoral role, et cetera. We don't have to do that. Let's just see about your desire to get out of the triangle and that as one of the theories that you're using already in this situation.
Hmm.
So the drama triangle at points has you kind of, well, has SS and EB definitely as the victim. They're feeling
Right.
wrong, misunderstood, excluded from decision making, and that's what you're hearing, right? They're the victim. So if they have made themselves a victim, what role did they cast you in? You're the one enforcing the boundaries about the keys and church access.
I forgot the exact name. Is it persecutor or
Yeah,
something?
you're the persecutor. That's
Persecutor.
right. You're absolutely right. They have cast you unfairly in the role of persecutor because you're doing your job, but that's the role you are in that triangle. And so then what's left in the victim persecutor triangle is somebody then function as a rescuer. And I think you've also been pulled into the rescuer role because you're
Mm.
trying to mediate between SS and EB and the trustee and AS and all of that. So those roles are fluid and people often shift around themselves quickly.
Mm-hmm.
especially when stuff is all enmeshed and you've already identified this as a toxic family dynamic and the way in which somebody's married to AS's nephew and SS is married to AS's nephew and all of that, right? So, how do you shift to the empowerment triangle? Because this will be how you're using this theory of the drama triangle, which you have very well identified, shifting to the empowerment triangle. And you do that. So for you, when you have a victim,
Mm-hmm.
want to try to shift them from a victim to a creator. You want to try to make them a creator if you can, and you can do that by challenging them or perhaps by coaching them. And but you've already begun this shift by recognizing your own agency. Because you say, hey, I'm trying to get out that triangle. So I don't want to be in the triangle. I want to be a creator in this dynamic with them. So you can ask yourself some questions like, well, what outcome do I want for myself in this scenario? What outcome do I want for the church? And what boundaries do I have to, so what boundaries support that? And that's exactly what you did. The outcome I want for the church is the key to be at the church. It should be there. The outcome I want for the church is a trustee to be able to have access to it. The outcome I want for the church is for the gas company to get in there and see if we have a gas leak. This gas bill is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you were doing it. You were like, okay, this I'm clear. To get out of that persecutor role to challenger, you want to not act like a persecutor. Because if you accuse me of being a persecutor, I'm going to defend myself, right? I'm going to defend my actions. Well, the challenger energy instead would be to name the reality with clarity and compassion. And I bet you did that, even though you were sick and tired. The church, the key needs to be at church, right? It needs to be accessible. We have this, here's a fact, we have this bill, we have, right? So you did that. And the only thing I would say is I imagine you did it with empathy. Like I understand
Mm-hmm.
that this feels frustrating. Right? I
Mm-hmm.
understand it's frustrating when calls aren't returned, right? You're in that role of not defending yourself. So once you
Mm-hmm.
stop defending yourself, you're shifting yourself out of the role of persecutor. And you do rescue a little bit, I think, in this by trying to fix the trustees' communication issues, right? And in that way, you're absorbing the family's emotional, like really volatility, it's screaming at you. So I wonder if it would be helpful, or I kind of imagine you did this, but you didn't write it. I hear your concern. What would help you feel heard by the trustee to them instead of
Right.
getting in there and navigating and fixing it?
Right.
What would help you
Right.
feel heard by the trustee? Now you probably gonna get an earful.
And we did go over that as well. And that was
Figure.
if he would just answer the phone and, you know, but he's not going to answer the phone because they have the relationship they have. So he's just not going to do it.
Okay.
He's in avoidance, like some type of avoidance, I guess. He won't. He's
Very good. So what you are doing is inviting that instead of being the rescuer, you're being the coach and inviting that victim to identify what they can do. Whether it works or not, you
mm,
keep helping them perceive their options because that makes them hopefully feel less like a victim, even if
hmm
what they have to come to is the same conclusion you have. He is not going to return your text. So what else can you do? Well, what else could you do? Okay, you got that. You got that. That's sometimes what I do. You have
hmm
that. Okay, now we identify three things. Is there anything else? Well, I could just leave the keys at the church and not try to make communication with him at all. Okay, that seems viable too. All right, you've got some options, and I leave it at that. because now you're a little bit less of a victim of this other person. You want them, you're coaching them to think
Hmm.
about their choices, and you're ending. Do you see how that kind of ends the drama and it eases you out of the triangle and it
Hmm.
shifts you from persecutor to coach?
Right.
And I think you handled it well. I think you handled it well. And like I said, I just think the writing doesn't reflect all of the things that you did. But by talking through it, then you also can appreciate, oh, I was doing it. I was doing it there. I was doing it there. Before I yelled at him, I was doing it. I was doing it there. And even realizing, oh, my voice is escalating. I am functioning in this persecutor role right now. That's not where I want to be. So I can shift because we can shift, and you did. So that is an example of using a theory, which again, I said, I think you did it much better than you realize, and moving from the drama triangle, which you have so well identified as a dynamic in this situation, to the empowerment triangle. And I love when I read, and I'm quickly trying to get out of this triangle. I can feel your frustration. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I can't rescue her. So, but we can coach each other and talk through it. And that's what we're doing. And again, I'm aware there's all parts of the conversation that aren't in.
Yeah.
How do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
Feel good. I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad to hear that I'm hitting the mark because it's hard to know if you are because some of this the language of it, it's kind of difficult, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the reason I didn't do it on purpose, the learning outcomes and the
Yeah.
because it's so much and the answers like I mean the questions are like the same throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean? Is it one
Yeah.
answer? Is it 12 answers? I don't know, so
Yes.
I just didn't do it.
No, I understood. I was like, okay, this is a good opportunity for us to do that. And I invited you. So that was
Yeah.
fine. I invited you to just do the parts you can and we'll grow in it together. I too am growing in this BDTIL. I'll be presenting one Friday.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah. So excellent. Excellent. So this was a good opportunity to just talk it through. And then the next time you'll catch more. I love that you, well, I hold on, I can't remember the name of it. Is it Persecutor?
Mhm.
You did remember the name of it. And it is like learning a new language. It reminds me of when I first went to seminary and I'm like, exegesis, paradigm, hermeneutic, what?
Right.
It's disorienting and trying to learn this new language. So you're doing very well. And
Now I did try to do it this week,
okay,
so hopefully it'll reflect.
in your paper this week.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Is there anything I can do to support you in being able to make those connections?
When they talk about theories, how am I supposed to figure out what theories? I know you showed me you answered some of those, but I mean, I've been trying to like research theories and different things. Is it is it a set theory or I'm just, how am I supposed to know these theories?
I would look at the theories you've been taught in didactics
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to trying to research theories that you've not encountered necessarily within CPE because
Right.
there's an endless number of theories.
It is.
So just go to what you have been exposed to in CPE. I already noticed that trauma informed theory is important to you. In the didactic that I did on the first part of mental health, like the first 5 or 6 slides,
Mm-hmm.
I identified 3 or 4 different trauma informed theories and what
Okay.
one does in them.
Oh, okay.
So they're laid out in there. So
Mm-hmm.
Joseph, you already identified one of the theories Joseph uses with the orienting system in terms of the plane. Remember, he talked about that one. I can't remember what it's called. It's abbreviated. The mnemonic is it dome or or something? It's with the plane. And Joseph did
Mm-hmm.
that. So you have that one. I'm talking about in this unit. You might have
Okay.
other units too. Um,
Well, I kind of missed his because I wasn't there, but I didn't get
okay.
off. I didn't
So
get all of that.
in the previous unit, he did the same didactic, and it involves the analogy with an airplane pilot and
Oh
how
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
so there's a theory right there you could use. You just got a new one today, parallel process, and you've been working with family systems theory. That's a lot of theory right there. So I would
Okay.
encourage you to see how those speak to it. Um, and you don't have to go researching a lot of other.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's helpful. And we can
Yeah.
do this again in terms of, and if you like, you can even request a didactic on how to shift from drama triangle to empowerment triangle, and we can do it with the group.
Oh, that yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, with the group, at some point in the group time, make that like IPG or wherever, make that request in the group
Um,
time, because that'll be helpful. So yeah, so is that clear on the theories? I don't want you to reinvent the wheel.
right. Right. No,
Excellent.
that's good.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
again, I'm affirming the language, behavioral theories, you're like behavioral sciences. When did we talk about behavioral sciences? Right. So I get it. I totally get it. Excellent. Well done.
Thank
Well,
you. I appreciate it.
anything else you wanted to look at today?
I think that was all. Let me look right
Okay.
quick. Uh, yeah, that was I think that was all.
Okay. Stop your screen share, please.
Okay.
So let's just check in for a moment. You had a lot going on in the last week. How are you doing?
I feel much better. I actually feel rested and everything because um at the conference I really didn't participate a lot like I usually do, like go, go, go. I kind of just sat on the porch with my sister and kind of just chilled a little bit and talked with her and just relaxed. And
Good.
went to bed like at 9. I couldn't believe that for myself. And I just feel really rested and really in a good mind space and everything. So I think,
Excellent.
yeah, I feel a whole lot better and everything.
And you felt good about your presentation.
I did. Yeah, it went well. I didn't know Reverend Joseph was there. He was like, "You need to tell Reverend Donna this." He said, "You spoke with authority." So, and he's like, "You learned that in the units, remember, to speak with authority."
I was so grateful that you shared it with me. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it went very well. Everybody really, really liked it. They were texting me and showing me pictures of myself, and you did really good. You really, really good. So it made me
Good.
feel good.
I am so glad and so grateful that Joseph could name your authority in addition
Yeah.
to other people's affirmation. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then your project. How you
Oh
feel?
yeah, that's Saturday.
I
Um,
know. I'm
I'm
glad you're in such a good space.
a little nervous about it, but I mean, I'm feeling good because if it was a group of people I didn't know, I might uh I might feel differently. But I got all my stuff together. Everything's ready. I'm gonna go down there Friday and put all my stuff on the tables and have and the food's gonna be delivered. I already paid for it and everything, so I'm just in a really good space with that.
Mhm.
And one of my friends, me and her are over African American Ministries. And she asked me what project I want to do. I was like, what are you talking about? But anyway, she's like, you're supposed to do a project. And I'm like, I was thinking, well, maybe one of these books might be the project that we can do in the African American community. And um, if this goes well, maybe do that book. And I understand what you meant about reading that whole book. And I read the book and because it brought everything together
Work
about
together.
the birthright and all that. But and I was telling her about it, and she's like, yeah, no, yeah, we got monies. You can do that if you want to do it. So
I think that
maybe.
would be a great project.
Yeah, so she asked me, and I was like, well, maybe that. So it'll be conference wide, and we allow anybody to come, but it's mainly for African Americans. And I will be able to get actually some therapists, paid therapists to come to be there.
And spend some
So
time.
yeah,
Hmm.
so
Oh,
we're gonna talk about it next week, and get it together. kind of
And you
helped me
have
get.
so much that you have learned
Yeah,
from what's going to happen Saturday. But yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome leadership. That's wonderful. I am so excited for you. That is just wow.
yeah.
You go, you go.
Thank you, and thank you for the reminder of the book because she was like, "What's the name of the book?" I was like, "I can't remember."
That's okay. It happened to be at a time where I was like, I think it's so yeah, so it worked out. We put our heads together and we found it. And so no
Yeah,
problem. Well, who knows? Maybe depends on when they do it. Maybe I could visit around that time.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, when
It
will?
depends. Yeah, that's pretty cool, Lisa. That's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
hope you are feeling good about the energy you're bringing into Saturday. Because just
yeah,
as you observed in this and in other reflections and writings and things, when you are tired and sick, your bandwidth is really short. You don't have a whole lot of energy for other folk.
mm-mm.
So it's great that you set yourself up with your self-care.
Right. Yeah,
I want
yeah,
to affirm your intentionality around that. And it's great that you're going into this. You're not exhausted. You're not sick. Because you could have ran yourself around the conference ragged.
mm-hmm.
And you show up
Yeah,
Saturday, you're tired, but you're grounded, you're focused. You had some good conversations. You had some success and a very important presentation to you. You've planned a great project. And
thank you.
I'm going to be praying all day.
Please do, please
I
do.
will. I'm gonna be praying all day. And I'm just proud of how you have organized it, thought ahead, and you've prepared yourself. You are demonstrating I don't have to hurt myself to help others. I
Right.
don't have to overextend myself to help others. What? I can
Hmm.
help myself first
Right,
and actually be in a better position to help others.
right,
Awesome, awesome. And when it's over, it's over. You will be spent and have a small window to recover by Sunday.
right.
And
Yeah.
I offer this out of my experience, if that's
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
that when I have been very tired on Sunday morning after I have done something with the congregation on Saturday, those are the occasions where I have had to be most diligent to not say something in my sermon that sounds like it's coming from an interaction we just had on Saturday. And even with my most diligent effort, sometimes somebody still hears something that I
Right,
not, you know, doing, using that bully pulpit at all.
right,
I may say something that is
right,
this out of that, and then I have to quickly own up to it. And don't make an excuse. I don't say, "Oh, I was so tired." I say, "You know what? You're right. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that." That is rare. It's mostly it has happened when I'm tired and not
right.
paying attention. Oh, you better be real careful, girl. Because I'm preaching. I'm in the moment. Oh yeah, and by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
So I just
yeah.
offer that out of my experience that this is going to be an emotionally charged thing and people are going to be very sensitive. And I think sometimes they come Sunday looking, expecting me to, not because
Right,
I've done it, but because they're anxious themselves and they wonder.
right,
Yeah, so I
right.
just offer that.
Yeah. I already got my sermon, but I'll look back through and make sure that, you know,
Hmm.
because I mean, even with, not even planning to, some of the things we say, it still can hit on that and make people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Think
and
you're talking about them and their situation and stuff. And
right.
that happens all the time though, but how do you avoid it? But you just have to be, like you said, be careful and make
Mm.
sure you're not tired and, you know,
Yeah, because tired are those times when we're more likely, and you're right, we can't avoid it. But just what you just said, going back over that sermon, and you can
yeah,
catch, ooh, this I'm not thinking about that, but I'm gonna hear how she thinking about that.
that's right.
I'm gonna flip this up a little bit. So I hear you. That's it. I'm so glad. Well, I look forward to tomorrow, and I can't wait to hear about how Saturday went. And again, you have my commitment. I'm gonna be praying for you all throughout the day. Matter of fact,
I
you can
appreciate
when it's
that. I
over, and
need
I'll
it.
stop praying.
It should be over by 2 at least.
Okay, good. I'll go up to then at least. Maybe give you a little overage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just be praying for me then.
Yeah, just you after that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Well,
appreciate
awesome.
it.
You're doing great work. Great work,
Thank
Lee. All
thank
right.
you for all your help too and
You are
support.
welcome. You're welcome. And I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, take
All
care.
right. Take care.